Hello everyone. So welcome back to yet another session on analyzing insurance companies. So in my last session number 39, we had discussed in detail about the working of an insurance company, how the insurance company runs the business, how they make profit, how they get premium from policyholders, how they utilize that for investing in various investment instruments and make profit out of that, how they do the claim management, how they settle the claims, how they carry forward the profits from investments and pay off the bonuses, etc. All these things we had discussed in detail in the last session. Now, in the last session also we had discussed very much in detail about the insurance float. So, if you are seeing this session without looking into or studying the session for 39, which is about the insurance business, I strongly recommend you go see that video, then understand how an insurance company works, then look into this session 40 on analyzing financial statements of insurance companies. So, like what we had earlier discussed in various sessions of mine, especially how to analyze annual reports and the financial statements of an annual report. So the financial statements will have the profit and loss statement, balance sheet, cash flow statement. So these are the three basic statements of a financial statement. So here also in insurance companies, the statements are similar, but the format and the sequence by which it is presented is slightly different. So that is why I took the special case of analyzing the financial statement of these insurance companies. So as always, there are mainly three financial statements, or in fact, I would call four financial statements for an insurance company. So here, the first statement is the revenue report. So this is nothing but the income statement, otherwise called the profit and loss statement for the policy holder. So now, why I call this policy holder is that this revenue report is basically the income statement, otherwise the P&L statement for this company. But again, this P&L is divided into two in an insurance business. So as I told, there is policy holders in an insurance business who are the premium payers, and the other thing is the shareholders, which are the basic investors. So insurance companies has to maintain two separate P&L statement that we'll call it as revenue report. So there are two revenue reports. One is for policy holder and the other one is for shareholders. So what you see on my screen is the revenue report for the policy holder. So not only in the P&L statement, in the balance sheet also you can see two different categories: policy holders fund and shareholders fund. Normally, if you recall my earlier session on analyzing the financial statement, so the balance sheet normally has only shareholders fund. But here one more head, which is the policy holders fund, also comes in. So that we will discuss in the coming slides. So why these insurance companies are being asked to maintain two funds, that is policy holders funds and shareholders funds, and even the profit and loss statement for both these heads, is because if both investments are common, then company may tell that the loss making investments are of a policy holders head and then deny them of the higher bonus payments, and then claim that higher return investments are for the shareholders investments, thus diverting money to owners of the company, including we shareholders. So to have an unbiased investing or unbiased profit sharing, IRDA, which is the Insurance Regulatory and Development Authority, which is the regulatory authority for insurance companies in India, which is the regulatory authority for insurance companies in India. they have set various formats for the financial statements. On the screen you can see, so this is the policyholders account. Now the premium earned net, that is the income from premiums, like the policyholders pay the premium, so all the premium collected is listed under this head, which is the premium earned. Now the other head is income from investments. So income from investment is nothing but whatever premium has been collected, so whatever is paid out to reinsurance business. So what is a reinsurance, how it works, everything I had explained in my earlier session. So whatever is paid out to reinsurance business, other than that, those amount which is basically the part of the float is invested into various investment instruments like your stocks, bonds, etc. is list which is part of the policyholders fund is listed under this head of income from investments. So again repeating, this is what belongs to policyholder, and this is the premium collected from the policyholders, then this is the investments which is done, and the income which is received from this investment is listed under this head. So you can see interest, dividends, rent, all these things are like various investments they are done and the returns earned from that investments. So that is again totaled up here. Now coming to the 2 out of 3, that is same revenue report in the policyholders fund, you can see expenses for running the business. So expenses for running the business is nothing but you have to give, like in the last session I told, you have to give various brokers or agents the commission for spreading or marketing the insurance for policyholders to start a policy. So those are parts of commission. Then operating expenses for insurance business. Then so all these things are like and taxes. So all these things are the expenses for running the business. So again every expenses of this business, that is the insurance business, is again met from the policy holders premium and also the interest which is been earned out of the float. So again that is totaled out. So here the expenses paid out to policy holders is another expense in addition to the expenses which is for running the business. So as everyone would have a policy, you will know what is the expenses to pay out to policy holders. You will get interim bonuses, you will get benefits, and also there will be claims. So all these things are listed under this expenses payout to policy holders. So you sum it up and you get the value here. So that is what is the profit which is generated from running the insurance business under policy holders fund. Now getting to third part of it. So this is again the P&L statement or the income statement, but here you can see this is the income statement for the shareholder. So last slide we discussed about the policyholders income statement. Now again if you see here, income from premiums and investments after expenses from policyholders funds is being transferred to the shareholders fund. So you can see here the amount, and also you can see here the same amount. So this amount and this amount both are same as this amount. So whatever is earned as surplus from policyholders P&L statement is being transferred to the shareholders income statement. So see, so that is why it is mentioned that transfer to shareholders account. Now, so that ends the P&L statement for both the policyholders and shareholders account. So again, you can see the full view of a P&L statement for shareholders. So it has listed out all the income which is being generated out of the policies, and what are the expenses. Then the total profit is listed out here. So this is the total profit for the year, and this is for the last year. So here it is March 31st 2020 and it is March 31st 2021. So these are the 2 years of financial figures and the profit statements. Now this already we discussed that IRDA, regulatory authority for regulating the insurance business and how they do the business, and are they doing correct accounting practices, and are they doing business properly, complying to all the IRDA rules. So last session also I told about the minimum investments to be done in government securities. So if you go to the IRDA website, you can see the minimum amounts or percentage of investments to be done in various securities, and so that is how they ensure that the investments are not done in a way that it makes huge losses or it makes losses for the investors. So there are some conservative ways by which they have defined the investments to be done in various securities. Now coming to the balance sheet. So balance sheet, again it is similar to a normal balance sheet of other normal companies, say a manufacturing company. So you have the shareholders fund, then you have the liabilities, and you have the assets. So balance sheet, as you already know, the total assets equal total liabilities plus the shareholders equity. So the important thing to note here is that in the balance sheet, the float, so float is nothing but what is left out to be invested in various stocks or bonds or other investment instruments after paying out the claims or after settling the claims and other expenses. So that is the float. So float is actually listed under the liability, because if at all a huge claim comes in, then the complete float goes for that claim settlement. So that is why I earlier also told that there is always a gestation period for a insurance business, say 10 to 15 years. They take this time to stabilize their investments, fetch good returns from that investment, then only they will have a steady income source. So thus whatever float is there, so that is listed under this liability part of the balance sheet. So again we'll analyze that with real case examples. Like we discussed in the last session, float is the policyholders money we have minus the policyholders money we don't have. So in this, the V is nothing but the insurance company. Again splitting that equation further, the policyholders money we have is an addition of unearned premium plus loss and loss adjustment expense reserve, and again adding other policyholder liabilities. What are these unearned premium, loss and loss adjustment expense reserve, and other policy liabilities? So here again it is listed out properly. So as I told, unearned premium and loss adjustment expense reserve, all these things which becomes part of the policyholders money we have, so that is the float. So again this policyholders money we have, under those heads, the earned premium. So what is the earned premium? So policyholders money paid for future coverage is the earned premium, and loss adjustment expense reserve is nothing but the policyholder money set aside for already incurred losses, incurred but not reported losses, and cost of settling claims. So all these heads you will get under the balance sheet liability side. Now again splitting the float, the other portion of the float is policyholders money we don't have. So what all does it consist of? It consists of the premium receivable, the reinsurance recoverable, the prepaid reinsurance premium plus the deferred acquisition costs. So there are a lot of terms in this. You need not get confused because all these terms you can again go through my slides once you completely see the video. You can pause and have a look at it. And also each of the terms I am identifying in the balance sheet of one of the insurance company in India, and I am computing the float as a real case example in this session. So not to worry about or get confused about these big terms. Once you are analyzing this, say 3-4 insurance companies, then you will be very fluent in analyzing this. Now again, the last slide we told all these terms which is added up will give you the policyholders money we don't have. So all those terms is again decoded. Premium receivable is nothing but the future premium to be received. Reinsurance recoverable is the money that reinsurers owe to the insurance company. And prepaid reinsurance premium is the money already paid to reinsurers for future reinsurance policies. Deferred acquisition cost is the money already paid but not expensed, such as agent commission, premium taxes to acquire the policies. So all these items are coming under the balance sheet only, but on the asset side. Now again, policyholders money we have, these three heads we have. So we are going to analyze that in a real case example for HDFC Life Insurance. So HDFC Life Insurance is one of the largest life insurance company in India. This has been started since early 2000. So it's been now almost 20 years of its business operation. Now on the balance sheet, we again discussed on the balance sheet, we have the other policyholders liability and the loss and loss adjustment expense reserve. So these are the heads. So other policyholders liability is coming under this, relating to life insurance business and relating to reinsurance business. So you have this. So whatever figures here mentioned is into 1000 rupees. So you have to multiply this figure with 1000 to get the total value. So that is how, at least in India, the insurance company, the figures are in those units. So it can vary from country to country how it has been, in which conversion factor it has been listed. Maybe it is in millions or billions or whatever. So here it is in this value into 1000 rupees is the value of the figure. So we note this figure, we note down this figure as well. So we got the two heads. Now again the third head is the again going to balance sheet. So in the balance sheet side you have these current liabilities. So under the current liability, so there is a note here. So in the note you can see there is, so basically this is called a schedule in case of insurance companies. In normal financial statements it is notes. Here they call it as schedule. So in schedule 13, so you have to go to the financial report or even the annual reports. So here the current liabilities is listed under schedule 13. So schedule 13 you can go down in the financial statement or the annual report of the HDFC Life, and under schedule 13 you can see this here, it is schedule 13, it is current liability. So they have listed out the complete current liabilities. So what we require for our float calculation is only the unearned premium. So unearned premium is premium received in advance. So that is the value is shown here. So for March 31st 2021 you have this figure. So again you note this down. Again you substitute the values. So unearned premium is 25.71 crore. So as I told, so this is 257131 into 1000. So that is how you derive the total amount. So that is converted as 25.71 crore. The loss and loss adjustment expenses again you got as 85,000 odd crore. Now the other policyholders liabilities, again it is 70,000 odd crore. Now the policyholders money we have is nothing but the addition of all these three items. So we got this as 1,56,000 odd crore. So no, we have to note this figure. Now moving on to policyholders money we don't have. So again remember, policyholders money we have minus the policyholders money we don't have will give you the float, the insurance float. So we are trying to calculate insurance float for March 2021 for HDFC Life. In the sense, March 2021, the financial year, the total financial year for 2021, that figure we are trying to calculate for HDFC Life insurance. So the policyholders money we don't have, we have this premium receivable, reinsurance recoverable, prepaid reinsurance premium, and the deferred acquisition cost. So again, going back to the balance sheet, under the asset side, you can see a head called advances and other assets. So in Indian company, whoever balance sheet, whether it is SBI Life Insurance, ICICI Prudential, all the insurance companies are having same formats. Even the schedule number also is same. So if you see this video, if you go to other balance sheets or other annual reports also, you will get same formats, or at least similar formats with similar schedule numbers. Now going into the asset side, you have these advances and other assets. So under that, it's listed under schedule 12. So go to schedule 12. So we went into the schedule 12, advances and other assets. So under that, whatever you want, 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever we mentioned for policy holders money we don't have. So those heads are listed here. So it is all self-explanatory. You can see prepaid reinsurance premium is item 3, which is the prepayments. Deferred acquisition cost is nothing but the advance tax paid and tax deducted at source. Also, deferred acquisition cost includes agent balances. The agent balance here is 0. So sometimes if the figure is here, this is plus and this is minus, so the total value is 0. Many times there may be a difference, so you will get some value here. So here it is 0, so we will mention it 0. In some companies you will have some figure here, so you have to add that to get the total deferred acquisition cost. Premium receivable is the outstanding premium, which is again readily available here, and reinsurance recoverable is the due from other entities carrying on insurance businesses. So in bracket you can see including reinsurers. So that is the reinsurance recoverable. So as we got all the 4 heads, now we substitute those values here. So we have these figures here: 375 crore, 304, 47, 484 crore. So all these figures once added up will give you the policyholders money we don't have. So that is 1200 odd crore. Now you substitute in the float equation policyholders money we have minus the policyholders money we don't have. So from the previous sheets we have the policyholders money we have as 1,56,565 odd crore minus 1200 or 1210.65 crore. So that will fetch you 1,55,354 crore. So that is nothing but, if you mention that in billion dollar, so that is $21 billion. So dollar as in US dollar. So the float for the HDFC Life is $21 billion. Now that's a huge figure. So this is the amount which is available for HDFC Life effectively to invest in various investment instruments and possibly try to recover good interest or profits also out of that investments and increase the book value of the company. So as you are clear on how we computed the float for HDFC Life, again I have tried to calculate the float for SBI Life Insurance as well. So same equation applies here. So I'm not going into the details of that because you can also open up the annual reports or download the annual reports from the company website. So whether it is SBI Life Insurance, you can Google search SBI Life Insurance annual report. Then you go to the investor relations head of the SBI Life Insurance website. Then you can download the annual reports for n number of years. Like this year 2021, you can download, even 2020, 19, 18, all those years you can download. So from those, similar to what we have done in earlier slide for HDFC Life, I have calculated the figures for SBI Life Insurance 2021 as well. So that is like $25.54 billion. So recall that HDFC Life was having 21 billion, SBI Life Insurance is having $25.54 billion, which is higher than the HDFC Life. Now this is the SBI Life Insurance. Again, float I have calculated for year 2000, financial year 2019. So in 2019, which is like 3 years back, the float was only 16.97 billion. So that is, you can see the growth of the float over the 3 years. Now again, going back 6 years back, so that's like 2017, the float is calculated as 11.78 billion. So you can see this, I am computing with a 3 years duration so that you can analyze or visualize how the float has been increased over the years in the span of 3 years. So in 2017, 2019 and 2021. So you can see in this sheet I have summarized the floats for all the 2017, 2019 and 2021 financial years for SBI Life Insurance. So in 17 it was 11.78 billion US dollar, and in 2019 it has been 16.97 US billion dollar, and in 2021 it has been 25.54 billion dollar. So if you take the period 2017 to 2019 financial year, the float growth has been 16.97 divided by 11.78. It will give you 44% 3-year growth. So divide by 3, that is the number of years, will give you a yearly year-on-year growth of 14.7%. So similarly for 2019 to 2021, the float growth has been 16, like 50% for 3 years. So divide by 3 years, which will give you 16.7%. So 15% growth and 17% growth. It's a good growth year on year as far as the float is concerned. So 5 years growth if you take directly, so 2017 to 2021, you will get like 25.54 divided by 11.78, those that is like 117%. So that is a 5 years growth. So 117, so 25.54 divided by 11.78 into 100 will give you 117% growth, which is over 5 years. So divide by 5 will give you a 23% annual growth rate. So 23% annual growth rate for past 5 years for SBI Life is the float growth it has been able to achieve. So again, insurance company, like I earlier mentioned in my last slide, the float growth is one thing, but in utilizing that float to effectively invest that in various investment instruments and fetch good returns is another important thing which has to be analyzed. So float growth has been very good in SBI Life. So in the balance sheet also you see that they have been successful in investing it in good companies or good stocks and other securities and fetch good returns out of it. So again, whatever we have summarized in last slide, so 2017 to 2021, the float growth has been almost linear and steady. See, you can see I have plotted that for those years. So it has been a steady growth towards the upper phase. So the this shows that the premium collection, the more policy holders coming into the uh, business, and the company has been able to generate that business and increase the float value. Again, another company, ICICI Prudential. So for 2021, I tried to calculate the float. So for it, it is 15.39 billion. All these figures again I have extracted from the annual report of the ICICI Prudential. So I am not showing it here again how I have extracted the data, because already I have shown that for HDFC Life Insurance. So similar values only. Those heads I have taken from the financial statement and put it over here to calculate the 15.39 billion float for ICICI Prudential for the financial year 2021. So again, a comparison of all the major three life insurance companies in India: float of SBI Life, float of HDFC Life, and float of ICICI Prudential for 2021 financial year. So the highest being SBI Life, 25.54 billion US dollar, then $21 billion for HDFC Life, and 15.39 billion for ICICI Prudential. So that is the comparison of float for all the three companies. Again, I told you you should not look at not only the float, but also you should look at the profits they have generated out of the float and analyze them, so that you get a proper analysis of all those companies and how profitable they are. Why I have included only or mainly the float calculation here for all the companies, and very specific to various financial years like 2017 to 2021 for SBI Life, etc., is because you will not find the float calculation for Indian insurance companies in any of the uh, articles or videos or anywhere, because float is, like I mentioned, is a concept not that much familiar in Indian insurance companies or Indian insurance market, because it is something which is mainly utilized by US nationals. That too is a concept by Warren Buffett. So those concepts I have tried to incorporate to Indian insurance companies and try to calculate the floats here. So hope you have understood the concept of float and how to calculate that. Now again, in balance sheet, continuing with our balance sheet analysis. So balance sheet, you have shareholders fund. So under the balance sheet, in the shareholders fund, under that you can see a head called reserves and surplus. So if you see on year March 31st 2020 and March 31st 2021, the reserves and surplus have increased up to 29% year on year growth, like that, nothing but 64,094 divided by 49,741. So that value will give you into 100 will give you the year on year growth, which is nothing but 29% profit growth. So this is this reserves and surplus is nothing but the profits which are generated from the investments or the investment return from float, and whatever floats we calculated in the earlier slides. So those things are invested in various instruments, and again, where all it is been invested will come in the coming slides. I'll show you. So it will be again listed in the financial statement under schedules. So in how much percentage or how much amount is invested in government securities, stocks, everything split detailed report you will get in the financial statement. So here basically reserves and surplus, it is very clear that this is for HDFC Life. So the percentage has increased year on year for 29%. So it has clearly added to the book value of the company. So it shows a healthy book value growth, because shareholders fund end of the day is adding to your book value. So which is the net worth of the company. So again, reserves and surplus is one of the head of the shareholders fund. So mainly the float investments or returns are added into this item. So looking at this value is very important for all companies. And also year on year growth has to be analyzed to see how effectively they are growing the business. Now the next slide, you can see the in the balance sheet there are some schedules. So in the schedule 8A, which is the investments for policyholders, you can see the long-term investments. So there are various government securities. This much crores is invested in government securities. Then other investments is like they have invested in equity. So that is like stock market shares. They invested in this thing. So again, the split of which all companies they have invested in, that again you will get from the annual report. So these are like debentures like this. It is debt and bonds. So debt funds and bonds they have invested this much amount. So various fixed deposits they deposited in infrastructure investment funds. So all those real estate they have invested. See, so that is why in the balance sheet you could see there is some in the profit and loss statement you could see there is some income from the rent also. So probably that is the real estate. Some renting is done and the rental income also is included as an income. So such investments are there. So these are the long-term investment and short-term investments. So this is the same sheet only. I have split it into two halves for fitting it into a single slide and for having a larger view. So here in the short-term investment also you can see some treasury bonds or government securities. Again some equity shares they have. Like short-term investment is like within 1 year validity. So again you have small fixed deposits here. So these are the investment splits. So where they have invested clearly they have tabulated, and how much amount they have invested also is clearly tabulated in the various schedules which is mentioned in the balance sheet notes. Now another thing is that the balance sheet assets linked to cover linked liabilities as investments. So here if you see it is under schedule 8B. So again there is some linked liabilities in the sense if there is some claims or something happening, so you have to pay out the claims. So if there is a say like there is a hurricane or something, or maybe a tsunami or a flood, so there are a lot of insurance claims. So they will break this linked liability investments and whatever. So there are some mutual funds also or debentures, bonds, etc. So all these things they will break, and the money what they get out of this will be used for paying out the claims. So they categorize various investments so that they need not break all the investments, but those which are to be broken or meant to be broken in case of a claim is categorically invested separately, and those are broken and the claims are settled. So that is how they uh, balance the various investments between various investment tools is the efficiency of the company in effectively utilizing the float. Now coming to the last session, which is the cash flow statement. So again the cash flow statement for an insurance business is named as receipts and payments account. So you can see here consolidated receipts and payments account. So this is nothing but a cash flow statement, what we call. So again it is typical, I need not explain it here because cash flow statement is already explained in my earlier financial statement. Under financial statement the cash flow statement is very well explained. So the format also is similar to a normal cash flow statement, so nothing new over here. Only thing some like purchase of fixed assets instead of this plants and equipments in case of a manufacturing company. So but concept wise the entire thing is same, so you can also go through this balance sheet. There is nothing new as far as an insurance company is concerned for a cash flow statement. So this is the next page 2 of the cash flow statement. So that ends the all the four financial statements of the insurance company. So there are some profitability metric also we utilize for analyzing the profitability of a insurance business. So one is loss ratio, another is expense ratio, and both of these combined is nothing but the combined ratio. So it is self-explanatory. The loss ratio is the percentage of an insurer's premium paid out as claims, and an expense ratio is the percentage of premium that an insurance spends to run its business. So the loss ratio, again, to take an example, if an insurer or the insurance company collects 1,000 rupees in premium and say pays out 700 rupees for claims, then the insurer has a loss ratio of 70%. So 70% as it is claim settled, so 700 is actually a sort of amount which is not available for the insurance company because they have to settle the claim. So only 300 rupees out of 1,000 rupees collected is available for him. So that is a loss ratio, 70%. So expense ratio is like a insurer collected 1,000 rupees and 200 rupees is the expenses. Then 20% is the expense ratio, like 200 divided by 1,000 into 100. So combined ratio is the combination of the loss ratio and the expense ratio. So again, an insurer with 1,000 rupees in premium and 900 rupees in losses, and expenses would have been basically 900 rupees in losses and expenses would have been a combined ratio of 900 divided by 1,000 into 100, so that is 90%. A combined ratio of less than 100 shows an underwriting profit and is a sign of good risk management. But if it exceeds 100%, so there is nothing left out for the company to generate profit, or it's a loss making, I would say. So lower this ratio, combined ratio, the better the company is, I would say. Now, typically for an insurance company, another ratios to look at is obviously the PE ratio, which is a prima facie. You can see the for looking at the valuations. At least in Indian market, the PE valuations for insurance companies are not that cheap because there are only a few listed insurance companies available in the market. And as the insurance company is a good business or a futuristic business, because only a few there are a lot of uninsured people in India. So the insurance business has got a good potential in India to grow in multiple or two digits figure in the at least in next coming 10 years. So all those things are sort of, I would say, priced in into the price of the insurance companies, listed insurance companies available in Indian market. So PE ratio, I would say you should do a comparative study rather than looking at the figure. Like it should not, like you would say the PE ratio should be below 10 or something like that. That you may not get, but you should do a comparative study like PE ratio of HDFC Life, SBI Life Insurance, and ICICI Prudential. You compare that and try to come at a undervaluation or cheaper PE available for all those three. Again, you should not look at the PE alone, as I mentioned in earlier sessions as well. So another thing to look at is the ROE, return on equity. So how much profit, net income is nothing but the profit after tax. So how much profit it is making, and also the dividend distribution, dividend which is given out is subtracted from that and divided by the book value or nothing but the average shareholders equity. So that will give you the ROE. So simply you can divide EPS by the book value also, multiply by 100 will give you the ROE percentage. Another factor to look at is the price to book ratio. So price to book ratio, we already told the book value is increased by the reserve and surplus, which is coming from investment of floats and other profits which are generated out of the insurance business versus the market price. So what is the price available divided by book value will give you the price to book value. So again, you will not get a cheaper book value in Indian market at least. So you should do a comparative study and find out which stock or the which insurance business to invest in. So this ends the session on the analysis of financial statement for insurance company. Like majority things are many of the things which are similar in comparison to normal balance sheet or normal income statement or even normal cash flow statement, which are the financial statements, I have not covered in depth here, but only concentrated on those parameters like float, which are rarely or not available on various forums. And so my concentration has been basically on those items which you will not get anywhere. So hope this session has been useful for you, which will help you analyze various insurance companies. So as per me, insurance company has got a huge potential, future potential, and you should really look at owning one of the insurance businesses so that you participate in the growth story of insurance business in India. Even the insurance business available in abroad also can be seen into, and if the valuations are cheap, I suggest you look into the business and invest at a wise time. Maybe you can wait for some market correction as well, and once the market corrects, you can invest into that stock and hold long so that you reap the benefits over a longer term. So until next session, happy investing.